So, Derek Chauvin is our topic today. His trial is still in jury selection, and the city of Minneapolis settled with George Floyd's family for $27 million. That is going to have an impact on the trial.
Am I free to go?
I want my lawyer now.
I want a lawyer right now.
Mr. Nolan, it's for you.
My name is Patrick Nolan. I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Missouri. This is Pat Talks Law. Welcome back. My name is Patrick Nolan. I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Missouri. This is Pat Talks Law. Now, I don't normally talk about ongoing cases, but this is a public one that I think a lot of people don't understand. Okay, right now, jury selection is going on in the trial of Derek Chauvin. Chauvin is a police officer, he's actually a training officer, and he's charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Third-degree murder in Minnesota is defined as causing another's death without intent, but evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life. Second-degree manslaughter also doesn't imply lethal intent, but rather that the perpetrator created an unreasonable risk of harm or death. Now, second-degree manslaughter under that Minnesota definition is something like we would see in a DWI fatality accident. In Missouri, a DWI fatality could result in a Class B felony, subjecting a person to 5 to 15 years in the Department of Corrections. So, the second-degree manslaughter is going to be a much more preferred resolution for Derek Chauvin. However, the third-degree murder charge that he's been charged with is probably not going to make it. I have a hard time seeing that they're going to get a conviction on that. And the cynic in me, I wonders if it wasn't charged that way so they wouldn't get the conviction. They get the charge to settle people, and then the lesser charge, second-degree manslaughter, is the one the jury compromises on. So that's what I see in the cynic in me. But let's talk about how this settlement is already impacting the trial. Okay. Eric Nelson, Chauvin's defense attorney, asked the court on Monday to delay the trial and move the venue because of the settlement. The settlement is incredibly prejudicial to Chauvin's case. And in fact, people they were interviewing yesterday, some of the potential jurors said that they can't set that aside. Just on Friday, there were interviews by the mayor of Minneapolis, and, it was not a good situation. So in the alternative to moving the trial, changing the venue, Chauvin's attorney Nelson also asked for extra preemptory strikes and re-questioning of the jurors that had already been selected. Those are, of course, things that the defense attorney is going to want. Now, previously, the judge had rejected moving the trial, wanting to retain it where it is. Judge Cahill said that he would agree to call the 7 jurors that were already selected in the case back and question them about the settlement. He denied the motion for extra strikes. And the prosecutor said that the settlement timing was unfortunate. It was unfortunate, my ass. There might have been a plan there, folks. Maybe not collaboration between the city and the prosecutor, but the city knew what they were doing when they settled the case. They want out, and they want to keep the city from burning. So previously, the judge refused a motion for change of venue in November. That first juror that they questioned on Monday, the juror told the judge that, she gasped when she heard about $27 million settlement and said she couldn't be fair to Chauvin. She was excused for cause. And clearly they're going to have that problem with a lot of prospective jurors. That's just the way that's going to be. And we don't know what the impact on the previous jurors that were selected is. But, and part of the reason we're doing this video is this was the topic of conversation. We have a brief morning meeting in my firm every day, and everybody was discussing this. So that's why we're doing this video, because my firm was discussing it. I imagine a lot of people are. And the fact of the matter is that there isn't an easy answer here. It doesn't matter what you believe, whether Derek Chauvin intentionally murdered George Floyd. It doesn't matter whether you think that Floyd was a drug addict that was on a short leash anyway, or a short lease on life anyway. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that the man died. One man had a part in his death and is on trial. I'm expressing no viewpoint as far as whether or not he should be or should not be convicted. I don't believe that they're going to be able to make a case for third-degree murder. That doesn't mean that Derek Chauvin didn't do anything wrong. He sure as shit did. The man died under his knee, quite literally. So these are serious issues, and they're going to impact a lot of our society. They're going to impact people, and if they did move it, and if they did broaden the jury pool, there's been some talk about seeking jurors from out of state in Minnesota. Again, I have a problem with that, because I think that the farther you go from Minneapolis, the less likely it is that the defendant is getting a jury of his peers. I can see why the defense would want to go outside of Minneapolis, though. You get out of the liberal bastions of Minneapolis, and you get some of the rural farmers who watch Minneapolis burn, and by God, they're going to go against that. So jury selection is a very, very important part of a case. You have to do your homework. And a lot of people misunderstand just how important that is. I'm going to pause. I'm about to sneeze. Can I pause? Oh, excuse me. Sorry. So, yeah. Anyway, jury selection is a very important part of the case. And jury selection is an art. There are classes on it. There are classes on it in classes. I've been to several. And it is amazing how many lawyers don't put the time in jury selection. And really, really should. So right now I'm looking something up real quick, because I was very, very privileged when I was in law school to participate in a jury selection class that was taught by a Missouri attorney, Kim Benjamin, who is a phenomenal, phenomenal attorney, and has just been a wonderful resource for me as I became an attorney and worked at the public defender's office, opened up my practice. She's always been available, and she is a phenomenal attorney in person. And she teaches at the Jerry Spence Trial College. And one of the things, jury selection is a very important part of that. So jury selection, or jury deselection, as it may be, you're deselecting the improper jurors and the ones you don't want, is so critical. You've got to get in and you've got to research your potential jury pool. Okay, you already know if you're pulling a jury pool from, and I'm going to pick on another county in Missouri, not one I'm in, but say I'm pulling a jury pool from Boone County, okay, Columbia, Missouri. Well, your jury pool in Boone County is going to be very, very different than a jury pool you're going to get from Taney County, Missouri. Okay, you're going to have a much different outlook. And the defense attorney and the prosecutors have to know their jury pool. They have to know what the predominant line of thought in the community is. And to do that, once they know that, then they can ask appropriate questions to allow them to gauge and deselect jurors. What you see right now is in Minneapolis, Eric Nelson is attempting to ask the right questions and deselect jurors. It's going to be very, very tough for him, even with the backdrop of what's going on, and that's making it so much harder. If the trial goes on as scheduled, there will be an appeal for not continuing it because of the outside influences. And it's a viable action. If he's convicted of third-degree murder, I think there'll be an appeal for lack of evidence. I don't know what's going to come into trial yet. I mean, none of us do. But the descriptions that I saw, I'm not sure that it's going to make it. And hey, maybe the prosecution has that key. It's been released in discovery and not in the press. Now, there might be the evidence to do it, and we just don't know. But realistically, this is probably going to be a political verdict as opposed to a fact-based verdict. And if that's the case, Chauvin's going to go down. And he'll go down for whatever that sentence is, and then he'll appeal. And I think the appeal will probably be more successful. There's a chance that the judge is going to be, could look at it and say, look, you reached a verdict, but I'm entering a directed verdict in opposition to the jury verdict. That could happen too. That's infinitesimal. Judges don't usually go against the jury. But there's a lot that could happen here. We just don't know what's going to happen. As of right now, there were 7 jurors that were selected. 4 were white, 1 is black, 1 is Hispanic, 1 is mixed race. 5 are men, 2 are women. And if anybody says that the city paying $27 million to the family of George Floyd is not going to be a factor that is impacting potential jurors, they're out of their minds. The city wouldn't pay if they thought they could win. And that's what everybody's thinking. That's even our staff. Well, they wouldn't have settled and paid $27 million if they didn't think they were going to lose. So what that means is that's what people are thinking and considering. That's what the jury pool is thinking. The city thought they were going to lose. It's because the city police officer killed George Floyd. So that presents a massive hurdle for Eric Nelson to try and jump while he's moving the case forward for Derek Chauvin. Now, we can talk a little bit about Chauvin if I'm going to lose a lot of people right here. Mark it, 13 minutes, 28 seconds. A little bit about Derek Chauvin. He had 18 complaints on his official record, 2 of which ended in discipline, including official letters of reprimand. He's been involved in 3 police shootings. 1 was fatal. He's a former owner of El Nuevo Rodeo, a Latin nightclub. Chauvin worked there off-duty as security according to the former owner of El Nuevo Rodeo, a Latin nightclub. Chauvin worked there as security while George Floyd was also working there as security. But they're not certain whether they knew each other. I got to tell you, I know my coworkers, at least in passing. Okay. The owner of that nightclub has been critical of Chauvin since the arrest, describing him as his tactics as overkill and he was unnecessarily aggressive. And there were allegations of racism against Chauvin back then. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's more likely guilty in this or less likely guilty. What it means is there may be a personal connection between the two. They may get along, they may not get along. They might have known each other at the time this went down. We don't know. Now, there are a number of things. I mean, things have hit for Chauvin and hit hard. He's got tax evasion charges for filing allegedly fraudulent tax returns from 2014 to 2019. You know, that he and his wife underreported their joint income. There's a civil rights investigation. The guy's life is going to be miserable whether he's convicted or not. He's going to have other charges, other issues. But that's to be expected. You know, when I was in the Army, there was a saying, you know, if you step on your Johnson, we're going to have to step on it too. And everybody's stepping right now. The question here is, what is going to happen when jury selection is done? Are they going to be able to fill a jury pool? Are they going to be able to fill the jury? They're at 7, but with this news, they may lose some of those 7. As it stands, gosh, I think there's a viable question as to whether or not the case should be continued. And we'll see what the court does. But that is the current status of the Derek Chauvin trial as I'm aware of it. Right now, they're continuing forward until the judge rules on whether or not they're going to continue it. And I think whether or not they lose any additional jurors is going to have a lot to do with it. I think it's going to come down to whether or not they lose any of the 7 they've already selected. So anyway, please hit like, subscribe, and I will be talking to you again soon.